You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John.
Hey, welcome back to Guitar Talk. I'm Dave.
And I am guitarded. John, sorry.
That's right. Excellent.
You remember in the 90s? What's up?
What's that? Oh, yeah. For sure. The old Budweiser ads. Hey, so last night I watched a couple of documentaries.
When you say a couple, are you referring to two? More?
I am referring to two.
Okay, excellent.
First one I watched was a documentary from 2014 called Miracle Out of Nowhere, the story of Kansas.
Okay.
I didn't realize how big a role Don Kirshner had in Kansas as far as putting up all the money and going into serious debt, backing them up. He was like a little over $1 million in the hole before Carry On My Wayward Son came out. That was the fourth album. But it's a great documentary. It's just very interesting because I think Kansas is a highly underrated band. It's really funny because, you know, these guys, they toured a ton, and when they went into the studio for the first time and they heard Steve Walsh on tape singing, they were all like, he could sing like that? Like, they had no idea how good he even was. They thought he was great, but they were like, they just knew that it was next level stuff. And no, they were a fantastic band. It's very bizarre.
Do you think you need to be named Steve to be a really good singer in hard rock?
No. It's ridiculous.
Anyway, continue on.
Oh, but they do talk about Steve Tyler and his antics. It was very
talk about Steve Perry.
No.
When you lived out here, did you ever go to East Coast Bagel on in the marina?
Is it near where Jerry's was?
Yeah.
Right across the thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been a few times.
So East Coast Bagel has been providing me with this. This is I'm doing it like a commercial on purpose. We don't get paid by these guys. If you're near LA or in the marina, they do this Hawaiian hazelnut coffee that's just insanely good. And they've been doing it the whole time I've known about them, so at least 10 years.
Yeah,
I'm assuming it's not going to change.
They're the same strip as Jay Nichols, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, their coffee, good Lord.
No, I think that place was good. I used to go there. In fact, at one point, I used to have to use that laundromat across from Jerry's and would go over to that place then. So, but anyways, this Kansas documentary, it's very interesting. And then if you watch any of the interviews with Kerry Livgren, it's like everyone that's setting up the interviews is more interested in him becoming a born-again Christian. And it's like, it could be the most uninteresting thing on the planet. Like, I don't care.
Right.
Well, then I got saved. Great. Tell me about this song. You know what I mean? It's like, who cares about your personal... I don't care. And, you know what? I guess it kind of ruined the band because Steve Walsh didn't want to sing those types of songs. And then I think the bass player quit because he didn't want to be a part of it anymore. He got, he became a born again or some type of Baptist. I mean, not a Baptist, some type of minister. But either way, like, I don't really personally care about your religious stuff or any of that. But
if I'm remembering correctly, Kerry Livgren completely put a stop to all of the pagan rituals they were doing on stage.
There were pagan rituals on stage?
It's a joke. Yeah.
Right. That's actually a very good joke. It's hilarious. Yes. Once he became born again, they stopped the slaughtering of children,
right,
and animals. No, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's like, but that was his thing. But he wrote, before all that, he wrote some great stuff. And then they make a big deal, like in all these interviews. You hired Ronnie James Dio to sing on your first solo album, and he was the singer of Black Sabbath. It's like, Black Sabbath don't really sing about evil things. They're not it's not like Ghost. You know what I mean? They're not worshiping Satan. In fact, if you listen to some of the early Ozzy tunes, it's very pro-Christianity, Lord of this world, and all that other stuff. But anyways,
Well, you listen to Nativity in Black. Nativity in Black even is an interesting twist because it's a song about Lucifer falling in love and changing.
yeah,
So I hear you.
They're just completely off the path of like that's a big deal. That might have been a big deal in 1980 or 79, whenever they were setting it up. But today it's like, oh, Ronnie James Dio sang and he sang for Sabbath and you're a Christian? Yeah, who cares?
I'm surprised they're dragging that up now. It's not like Tipper Gore's PMRC era. Everybody's concerned about all that stupid stuff.
Right. Yeah. Which is have you ever heard of the album Frank Zappa Meets the Mothers of Prevention?
No, I don't know it.
On this album, he basically recorded those hearings and put it to music. It's really funny.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's very cool. So then the second documentary I watched shortly after was the Quiet Riot documentary.
I didn't know there was one.
Yes, it's about Frankie Banali continuing the band and without Kevin Dubrow after he died. And I thought it was a really good movie. Like, I heard it was like funny, and I was hearing stories about it like you're gonna laugh. I didn't find any of it funny. In fact, I thought it was a real touching type of human story.
You're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry.
Well, I just felt like it was a story about Frankie Banali, and at the end of the day, I was like, I like this guy. I thought he was a real person. I liked him a lot. I was like, this is a guy I would play in a band with. I think he has a big heart. I mean, his taste in music, because he thought Kevin Dubrow was good, and mine do not jive. I can't stand Kevin Dubrow. I can't say I never liked it. When I was 15 years old and Metal Health came out, I was right there watching the S Festival on MTV and thinking, these guys are awesome. That lasted a few weeks. And then I was like,
yeah, slick black Cadillac.
Oh, it's so bad.
Solid gold hubcaps.
But if you're a fan of that music and you hold on to it and you still really like it, I have nothing again. Like, I just want to say, folks, on this show and on my whole channel, I'm always going to be super honest. There's a lot of like the 80s metal stuff that I don't like, but that doesn't mean if you like it that I'm somehow insulting you, because I like stuff that sucks, that I know is completely cheesy and ridiculous. And I'm proud to like it. So I used to love Quiet Riot when that first album came out. When the second album came out, I was falling out of favor with that style of music, and I thought they weren't very good at it. But I thought Frankie Banali's this movie, and him trying to keep it going was really good. I also thought, I felt like somebody should talk to him and be like, dude, you can do Quiet Riot and do the festivals to make a living, but also maybe go start something new and do something exciting and something that hasn't been done, that evolves, and maybe that could take off.
He's the drummer, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he did if he were in the Winery Dogs, I'm throwing out a band that he's not in, but if he could do a band like that, because he's in LA, he's got all the guys around him, there's no reason why he can't go out and try to create something new while still holding on.
I completely agree. That's actually a great point.
And I felt like if I were there in LA, I would try to contact him and be like, dude, let's do something. Just because I liked him that much from the movie, I was like, here's a guy who's been dealt a terrible hand. His mother passes away in the same decade as his best friend and his baby's mother. I'm not sure what their relationship at the time when she passed. So he's raising his daughter by himself, and just seems to be genuinely a good guy. Like I said, it was It was good. I thought it was a good movie. I also thought towards the end they got lazy because they got a singer, which I thought was funny because the guy sounded like Kevin Dubrow, but looked like Matthias Jobs from the Scorpions. And then the last second of the movie, they throw up a thing. Oh yeah, by the way, in 2013 he got fired and they have some new guy. Well, I just thought that was like kind of like.
Yeah, I wonder how long that movie was in production. Yeah, if they were filming a lot of stuff with this guy, and then things came to blows, they weren't going to refilm or whatever. When did it come out?
I don't even know. The girl who shot it is, I guess, got engaged to Frankie. Like they had a I don't know if they were dating before it started. I don't know anything about it.
Okay.
But there's scenes in the movie where he's upset. I mean, it's not like it's not like he you could see that it was definitely like a revealing inside look to what was going on.
Right.
But like I said, at the end of the day, I was like, you know what else it made me think? Because I always hated Kevin Dubrow, and I just never liked his singing style or whatnot. But I think at the end of the day, when you see a guy like Frankie Banali and you see what kind of guy he is, and you're like, well, he was best friends with him. It makes you think, well, there must have been a really good side to Kevin Dubrow, and Frankie tapped into that and saw that.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, just because the guy's not a great singer doesn't mean he's a dick. That's for sure.
Oh no, but I'm not talking about. I'm more like, maybe you don't remember when Dubrow was out in the '80s, he was ripping on every band.
Oh.
Oh yeah, he was hated in the industry. In fact, if you watch the year he died, they never even made mention on the Grammys that he died. They had a #1 album on the Billboard charts. They were the first metal band to have a #1 on Billboard.
Come On, Feel the Noise, the cover?
The Metal Health album.
Oh, the album itself. Got it.
Yeah. They beat Thriller and Synchronicity.
Mm.
They went to #1 and topped those guys off the charts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, and they didn't get even mentioned at the Grammys, and that's because he pissed off a lot of people. He was a big mouth. And I think, but like I said, it was like that rock and roll persona. He had struggled for so many years that he had a chip on his shoulder. That if a band got together and within a year had a record deal and a hit album, he was like, they don't deserve it, because he struggled for 8 years. But anyways, it's a really good documentary. I recommend it to anybody.
It's on Netflix or anything?
I'm a Quiet Riot fan, but what's that?
Is it on Netflix or any streaming services that people may know?
I think you can watch it on YouTube.
Oh, that makes it easy. Yeah, that makes it easy.
And I downloaded it on iTunes.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, I really enjoyed it. The next one I'm going to watch is the Glenn Campbell documentary about him getting Alzheimer's.
Oh, wow. Oh, geez.
And I hear really sad.
You're a big fan of uplifting, positive movies and
the
media.
It's not that I'm a fan of it. It's who's making a documentary about the guy. It's like it's the end of the Willy Wonka movie, right? You hear about the kid. Did you hear about the kid that got everything he wanted? No, he lived happily ever after. No one gives a shit. You know what I mean? It's like it's but this movie, I guess, is real sad because it shows the ongoing Alzheimer's developing and gets dementia, and I guess they show it. I was a huge Glenn Campbell fan as a kid, and then as an adult, I'm a big Steve Wariner fan, and Wariner and him did a lot of work together.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Those that don't know who Steve Wariner is, get out of the house once in a while. No, Steve Wariner is one of my all-time favorites.
If you're not following Steve Wariner on Instagram,
you don't know what you're missing.
I gotta figure out my Instagram game now.
Yeah, he was showing a video the other day of him hanging backstage at the Grand Ole Opry and jamming. It was great.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, did you watch the Jason Becker documentary, Not Dead Yet?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Talk about uplifting, right?
Yes.
Holy hell.
Yeah, feel goods.
I had my wife watched that with me, and there was a point where I hear I look over, she's crying. I'm like, good God, you don't even know who this guy is.
No, it's just devastating. I mean, here's
unbelievable.
a prison to his own body.
Just one of the most phenomenal talents you'd ever see on the instrument coming up, and then
Right. At 16 years old, I mean, like, I think as he got older, he probably would have went into jazz because he had so much so much background and everything, and he understood things. Yeah, to me, it was like not only what a waste of a talent and what a devastating thing that must have been for the family and him. They give him like what, a 5-year sentence. They say to him, "You have 5 years to live." And at the end of the movie, I think to myself, which way would it would have been better off?
It's a good question, because it's been. When was he diagnosed? He was diagnosed during the recording of A Little Ain't Enough, which would be what,
93,
91, 92? Somewhere in that range, yeah. So that's closing in on 30 years. But somebody living with that debilitating disease, what is it? Is it MS?
Lou Gehrig's ALS.
Lou Gehrig, okay, ALS. He's living with ALS, I mean, 600% longer than anybody else ever has. It's pretty incredible.
It's unreal.
I mean, there's that positive side of it, but I hear you. It's definitely, it makes you wonder. Some people get and I start to realize that as I'm like learning more about this, like just getting older, you start to see all these people that you admire, or even if you don't admire, you look at these people and you're like, how does one person get so successful? Right? You look at Vince Neil, for example. I'm not a big Motley Crue fan, but you look at Vince Neil and you're like, this guy was on top of the world, but then it's juxtaposed with he had a 4-year-old daughter that died of cancer. Or you look at like Joe Biden, the guy's like, on top of the world. He could be elected president, but his, entire family has pretty much died from under him in car accidents and brain aneurysms and all this shit.
Robert Plant.
What happened to Robert Plant?
He had a 5-year-old son that died. Right?
Jesus.
Did he drown? What happened to his son? His son died when he was 5.
Shatner was babysitting him? That was a bad joke. I'm sorry, everybody.
It was Robert Wagner.
Do we have no class? We have none.
Right? Wasn't he the one married to Natalie Wood?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. But anyways, I mean,
5-year-old kid died with a footprint on the top of his head, drowned in a pool.
So Judge Judy.
Same thing with Eric Clapton, by the way.
Right, but he pushed him out a window. Well, what's that? He didn't. He fell out? I'm just kidding. I get. Folks, this is the portion that you don't like. No, but
the portion I don't like.
Judge Judy said when they asked her about being so wealthy, I mean, she makes like 40, 50 million a year. And she was like, all the same shit in your life happens. You deal with family, you deal with the same exact stuff. Nothing's different except life's just a little bit easier. You don't sweat the bills and you don't sweat the money, but everything else is the same. People die, people get sick. It's the same stuff. And I thought that was very interesting because, of all those things that, you're making a point of saying like all these celebrities that had problems. And then you could also take a group of celebrities who never had issues.
Of course.
Then juxtapose them with people who weren't celebrities. And you'd see that the percentage is going to be the same.
Yeah, I'm sure.
If it's 3 out of 10 are going to do this, then 3 out of 10 with money, same thing is going to happen. It's just the law of averages. But
true.
In fact, this is off point of guitar, folks. I was watching the whole thing about this college tuition thing, And somebody brought up the point of the defense. It's like, what's the difference if you give the coach to the tennis team $1 million, or you buy a $10 million building for the school? Right? One you're bribing, and the other one you're a philanthropist. Somehow your kids just happen to get into that school.
Right.
Through your philanthropy.
Like Thornton Mellon.
Right. I got to go up to that college to see my son. In all fairness, it was a really big check.
That guy's the best.
I can't lie to you, Dean Martin. Yep.
Why don't you call me when you have no class?
Yeah. Let's call you. I can't do that night. I have class that night. I want you to call me sometime when you have no class. Yeah, the guy's great. Back to school, the triple Lindy. Come on, folks. Keep up.
What was his real name?
In the movie?
No, in real life.
Oh.
It certainly wasn't Rodney Dangerfield.
No, it might be
Jacob Cohen.
Jacob Cohen, and then he changed it first to Jack Roy. Jack Roy was his first stage name as a comedian.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then he went from Jack Roy to Rodney Dangerfield.
Do you ever hear that joke that he does where talking to a guy the guy that gives out names?
What's in a name? Right. Even William Shakespeare says, "What's in a name?" Who? William Shakespeare. You don't listen to me, you don't listen to your friends.
Right, exactly.
Oh, that's great.
That's good stuff. Anyway, yeah, we're certainly off topic.
So I had a gig the other night on Saturday.
Oh, let's get back off topic. Just kidding.
Let's get a burn hot topic. Remember that episode of South Park where the goth episode?
Oh, yeah.
Topic. So I'm playing this gig, and it's like in a tight space. We're all crowded in there. But I realized my pedalboard's starting to drive me nuts. I think I need to take a few pedals off and make it smaller. I just have drives on there that I'm not using, and I'm like, it's just more room for error. You know what I mean? I basically use 2 drives, and I'm telling you right now that JHS Angry Charlie, it's unusable. You can use it alone. As soon as you want to try to put a boost on it, it's just, yeah. The other night I was like, I would be better off with a second. I'd be better off with 2 rock boxes by Boiling Point and have just the drive dimed on one, and then the other one have it where I usually keep it, which is moderate. Than to have 2 different pedals. Just not happening. So
well, might not be that bad of an idea.
Nah, I just got to figure it out because I just got to make it so my board is easy to use, and I want to have that kind of drive. And then I saw there was someone selling a what's that a Black Star, the 40, and I was like, well, maybe I could use that. And
what is it?
You know,
Black Star what?
The 40T, I think it is, or the 40H.
Is it a pedal that you're talking about?
No, the amp. Sorry, the amp.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. You're talking about the Club 40.
Club 40.
Yep.
And then I was thinking, well, if the gain sounds good, I could drag that out.
It does.
Oh, okay. Then I could drag that out and use it for the Marshall-y gain and keep everything else in between. And there's something about pushing air that you get when you use, like when I use and you know, because you have the same amp, when I use that Mesa, you push air when you hit that gain and you got volume. It's nice. Doesn't matter what Fender you're using and what pedal you have, you're never pushing air.
Right. It's a different response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, does it sound the same to the audience? Maybe. I don't know. But to the player,
some of it has. Yeah, I mean, so if some of it's going to be fun to you, or some of it has to be fun to you as the player as well, you know. And if it makes it more fun to you, why not?
Well, the point is if it's not, I'd much rather it's just an easier setup to have everything clean, not have to stomp on. There's a pedal. This is an amp switch. It's just.
I don't know. You can't. It seems like with that recto verb, you could set yourself up to where you could literally drop like a delay or a reverb pedal just on the top of the amp and the effects loop and just leave it there, and then have your foot switch on the floor in front of you, and it'll be that big.
Right.
You're like, this will work. What's that?
I said that's true too. And then you went into your Jay Leno. Well,
I got to take the Velcro off the bottom of this because it sticks to my cap. Somebody put Velcro on the bottom of this.
Oh yeah, it's easy to get off.
This is my foot switch for the Splon.
Oh, nice.
It's what do we got here? We got a clean and overdrive switch there, so it switches your channels. Mm-hmm. This is a mode thing. It switches between those gears that amp has on it. So gears 1, 2, and 3. And then this is an overdrive 1 and 2 switch. It has this weird built-in boost on it. It's not like a volume boost, but it's a gain boost. And it's real subtle. But that switch does that, and that happens on any of the channels. And then there's a volume solo boost right there as well, which you can set on the front of the amp. That's my pedal board right now. I just put I
pay for that amp.
It's my business. No, I'm kidding. It was $950 plus 50 shipping, something like that.
Oh, $1,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that thing kills. It's great.
I'm just wondering because if I get one, I just want to make sure that I pay less than you. No,
yeah, exactly. It's a great amp. It's absolutely great. But the thing I'm doing right now, because I have my pedal board put together for my boogie.
Right.
And it's specifically for that. It's got the foot switch. It's got everything wired in the way that it needs to be for the boogie. And it won't work exactly the same with this one because I'd have to take the foot switch off and yada, yada, yada. Anyways. Yeah, so this one, all I do is I've got an analog delay sitting on top of the amp and the effects loop. I realize as a player, I'm not one of these guys that constantly changes my delay time or this or that. It's like when I'm playing rhythm, it's generally off, and when I play lead, sometimes I turn it on, but if the band mix is like real saturated and it's a hard rock song, most of the time I don't even turn it on. So I'm kind of figuring I'll use it when I want.
So I never change the time. Once I lock in what that sound is, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm using it just for sustain.
Yeah, so with that, I just put it on top of the amp, and then everything else is just that. There's enough gain in that amp to where I kind of like the more classic rock sound of not necessarily having a tube screamer on saturating the front end.
Yeah.
I shouldn't distinguish that being a classic rock thing because clearly that happened all the way back in the late 70s it started happening. But there's something about like just the amp drive. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you. For my taste, and for my money, you want to buy a quality product from me. No, for my taste, I prefer the sound of pushing air when you're dealing with a rock sound, but also I do like the ease of just putting pedals in front, playing a clean amp, and having at it.
Right.
I have to say that I've been enjoying playing bass more, mainly just because of the simplicity of the setup. But if you run into the same shit, you're never happy with your sound at first, and it's one of those things.
Okay, so I'm gonna change gears here because we talked about this for a brief second yesterday. Mm-hmm. So folks, I'm always 10 years behind the times, as most of you have already learned about me through all these episodes. I just discovered Chris Stapleton yesterday.
Yes.
I'd never heard of the guy before. A friend of mine said, "Oh, look at this song," and sent me what was it, Broken Halos and Tennessee Whiskey.
Sure.
And I didn't know anything about this guy. And I realized who it was, whose voice it was that he kind of reminds me of. And it's not really fair to compare that. This is, sorry, folks, this is a conversation that I had with Dave yesterday where I said, this guy's voice really reminds me of somebody. I can't put my finger on it.
Right.
You know what it is? Some of the melodic choices that he's making reminds me a little bit of Travis Tritt, but he doesn't sound really like. He sounds better than Travis Tritt, if you ask me.
Oh, how dare you! Wait, was Travis Tritt the one that did the Bible Belt at the end of?
My cousin Vinny, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
he's genius. And Country Club's a great song.
What was the one that he did? I got the rice cooking in the microwave. Something. You know that one? It's a great day to be alive.
Oh, no. Oh, maybe. I
It's a
like
great
Travis
day
Tritt.
to be alive. Something.
Definitely much more of a deeper tone to his voice. But and Travis Tritt has more of a twang, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Bible Belt.
Yeah, this guy though, this Chris Stapleton guy, man, is a hell of a singer.
Oh, he's good. He's good.
I had no idea.
Yeah, too.
What's that?
He's a good guitar player too.
Yeah, I saw you mentioned he had a Fender Princeton or something.
Yeah, they make a 64 maybe brown face clone reissue that they put a 12-inch speaker in. Basically, he for years was touring with an original original brown face Princeton that was modded with a 12-inch speaker. And Fender approached him and said, "We'd like to make this." And he was like, "All right." So they made the Chris Stapleton model.
Wow. So what's the difference between the brown face and the black face Princeton? Now, on his amp, I notice if it's a pretty close to an original, then I know the one difference is that it's a singular tone knob as opposed to
the tone is different. Exactly. Is
like the tone stack itself, like, is it voiced differently, to your opinion?
I don't know. I assume that that was the only difference, was they changed the tone circuit. In the
Are they doing it point to point too on his model? Because they're charging twice as much for it.
I think that, what do they charge? $2,000?
$2,000, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's got to be hand wired. Can't imagine that they're letting a machine do it and they're charging $2,000 for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you notice?
Comment on it.
Did you notice that Reverb.com has released their own special edition amplifier through Mojotone?
No.
Yeah, they've got a 5E3 circuit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's like a black tweed box, single 12 5E3, and it's all hand wired point to point.
What are they asking?
$1,000.
Really?
Yeah. It was $999. It had like the yellow mustard caps and the who knows what else resistors in this.
I love the 5E3 circuit. That's a great sounding amp. I mean, that's like classic stuff. Part of the issue is when you go and Victoria makes a great 5E3, and then there's Germano, whatever that name is. He makes a 5E3, and so many guys do. And even just like something like a Hot Rod Deluxe, if you're a decent player, you're going to make any amp sound pretty good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially when you're just plugging straight in. Years ago, I figured that out, that when you use pedals, it becomes the great amplifier equalizer. The amp matters less and less how good it is when you have to start using pedals, because the pedals will make a bad amp sound better and a great amp sound worse.
Oh, that's a funny way to put it.
It brings them down, but you need those pedals. And so it's like, because you're not just going to sit there and play a dry tone. So you need, some type of reverb or some type of delay. And then maybe you want a chorus if you're playing something clean, or a little bit of a compressor. Whereas a compressor doesn't make it sound worse, but if you're playing it, you know what I mean by getting that raw tone of how beautiful, how gorgeous like a 5E3 amp sounds plugged straight in. But then when you put a compressor in front of it, it's like, is it $1,000 better than my Hot Rod Deluxe with a compressor in front of it? Not really. My Hot Rod Deluxe sounds fantastic when I plug straight in. You
It's a
know?
good amp. I mean, it's a good amp. There's a reason it's one of the
Oh
most
yeah.
popular amps ever made.
Oh yeah. Well, this was a limited one. You know the one I'm talking about, the blue
Yeah, the
one.
blue one. Yeah, it's got the
Yeah.
vintage 30 in it.
Yeah, it's got the vintage 30 in it, so it has a nice sound, and it's a nice thing in general. Um, but yeah, so
The Great Amp Equalizer pedals.
right, so that's why I say it. Like I would feel like if I bought like the Black Star, if I got it cheap enough, that I could use it instead of that, use even the gain stage on it, and
Yeah.
use some of the clean, bring the pedals down, but I could make the clean sound pretty good. I mean, a Marshall clean is a good clean. It's almost a Fender clean. I mean, they're almost based off the original Fenders anyways, you know? And the Black Star stuff is all made by Marshall guys.
I think one of the that's actually. Oh, sorry, I was going to disagree with you for a second, and then I realized that you were saying by Marshall guys, not by Marshall, comma guys.
No.
I thought you were addressing the audience. Black Star's all made by
no,
Marshall. You guys, sorry,
no,
that's
they're
why I
made
was
by the
confused.
Marshall guys. The guys that
Yeah.
left Marshall to go start Black Star are the guys who
Yes.
designed it. And
Yep, that's right.
they're good sounding amps for the money. They're made in China, but they're decent.
China.
Yeah, I mean, slave labor's very capable of making a decent sounding amp.
True, small children can drop in those components quickly and
I-
neatly. They're small fingers.
That's right. Folks, I wish we were joking, however, we're not, which is why I always say buy American.
I remember when we received those Marshall Hayes amplifiers. Somebody, when we opened the box, somebody goes, I wonder if it was you.
It was. Smelled
Somebody
like
says,
a pet store.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. So he says, it smells like a pet store in here. What the hell is that?
Well, I have severe allergies, so when I walk into a pet store, I can smell everything. Plus, I have this big Jewish nose. So I walk in, thank you, folks. And then I walk in and I go, you know, if you walk into a pet store, what's the stuff they put underneath, like with the dogs or like chickens, whatever that, it looks like confetti or whatever, but it's
You
like
talking? Yeah, like the wood chips or whatever.
yeah. And it has a smell of like animals and dust and wood. And when you opened up that box from that haze, I was like, Christ, the cow yeah.
The thing you didn't realize is that we were offering a promotion that morning where any kid that bought a guitar got a free donkey ride.
Exactly.
We had a petting zoo in the middle of the store.
That's what it smelled like. God, I remember that thing opened up, and I'm like, where are they packing this thing? Like,
Yeah, that was
okay, you put amplifiers in box. You milk the goats. It's like Christ.
Well, that particular series was made in India, which was the weirdest thing. I think it was the first time I ever saw a guitar product come out of India. Since then, there's a lot more, but that was the first one I remember seeing.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It also smells like if you go into...
How great would it have been if it smelled like Indian food, though? You get in there and it's like some nice curry.
Oh, right.
Oh, I think I like this haze amp.
Did they change it afterwards? Did they make an amps in Vietnam shortly after?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But I don't think the hazes were received that well.
No.
Yeah. I mean, Marsh, to me, folks, that's like a big mistake when you have a company, and there's a lot of companies that do it, including Fender to a point, but when you start going outside, like the Fuji Gen Fenders should have somehow been labeled something else. I just think if you're an American manufacturer and you manufacture products, then you should use your name on a product that you're building and not to soil it. Like even the Mexicans Fender stuff. I'm not sure that it deserves the Fender name. Maybe. Well, you know what? In Mexico, they own the factory, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that works. And Taylor, too. If you don't own the factory and you're OEMing it, I think you should put a different brand name on it. Like the Japanese Fuji Gen stuff. Or any of these companies that are going like Marshall. Marshall should be making stuff in England. If you're making stuff in Vietnam, come up with a side name to let people know that that's the import model.
Weren't they doing that years ago? Did they have like their practice amps were called Park? They were using the Park name.
No,
I'm
no.
pretty
So
sure
what
they were.
Park was, Park, you can buy a British-made Park.
I know you can now.
No, back then. The reason why he used Park was he was trying to circumvent the distributor, Rose, whatever they were called.
Rose Morris.
Rose Morris. They were trying to circumvent Rose Morris. So he went to a couple of different stores and made Park amplifiers for those stores only. That's what Park was. Park was they were Marshalls, but to circumvent the distributor. Then they had the Park. I think somebody later, I don't think it was Marshall, started making Park overseas and used that name. I don't think that was Marshall. I thought that was like some cheap like import guy that did that.
Interesting.
But the original Parks were handmade Marshalls by Jim Marshall that needed to go circumvent the distributor.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they're very sought after.
Learn something new every day. Now Mitch Colby owns it and runs it.
Mitch Colby owns what?
Park.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know why do I know that name?
I've never seen one in a store. Have you ever seen one in a store?
A Park amplifier?
Yeah, he might sell them direct.
I don't know.
Maybe folks can chime in on that if they're aware. I don't think I've ever seen one, so.
It's amazing to me how little people know about Marshalls, considering it doesn't take that long if you just look up like some of the models in the history. But the other day somebody posted, I'm looking for a JCM 900. I'm like, which one? Like people think a 900's a 900. There's, the two models are basically there's a 100 watt and a 50 watt of each model. And there were two models, kind of like where the 800s left off as well. That's what.
Wasn't the SLX in the 900 series as well?
The SLX was the model, is a revision of the 2100.
Okay.
So when the 900 came out, you had the 2100, which was the 100 watt head, master volume, the MK called the Mach 3, which was basically a modified 2203. It had a transistor in it. Then what happened, you could control the transistor, the clipping diode, you could control the diode or you could keep it all the way off and it's exactly a 2203. Then they also had a 2500, which was the 50 watt version. Then they had the 4100, which was the dual reverb. And
Is that the one you have?
I have the 2100.
You have a 2100, okay.
Then they have the 25. Then they have the 4100, which is called a dual reverb. And the dual reverb has transistors built into the circuit already. You can't get around it. And it was basically a modified version of the 2205 and the 2210.
Understood.
So those were the four Marshalls in heads that came out in 1990. By 93, Marshall was sick of getting shit for having diodes in all the amps, even though the Mach 3 had one that you could dial it out. So what they did was they changed the amp to the SLX, the 2100, and the SLX, instead of having a clipping diode, ran another tube. It runs on another AX7, which is just too much anyways. It's not and I believe they also changed the tubes in that amp from the I think the SLX runs the what were the other tubes? The 5881s, I think.
For power tubes?
Yeah, not the EL34s. The SLX is not good.
No, I remember playing one years ago and thinking, I don't understand why people like Marshall. It was one of my, earlier when I was a teenager, I think.
The 2100, the original 2100 Mark III is far superior. And I think the 2100 and the 2500 are phenomenal amps. That's why when someone says to me, I'm looking for a 900, I'm like, which one?
Right.
Because, you can pick up a dual reverb cheap. The Marshalls, I mean, basically you have like the 59, right, which is the plexi, and the
Yep.
87, which is the 50 watt
50 watt.
version.
Yep.
And then you have the 2203, which is the master volume version,
Mhm.
and the 2204, which is the 50, and they've been making 2203, I think, since 75 or 6. I think maybe as early as 74.
Yeah.
But the 2203, when it went to be the JCM 800 2203, they added the effects loop. Before that, it had no effects loop. And you're going to hear people say, oh, the effects loop one doesn't sound as good. Shut up. Just shut up. Yes, we know it sounds better when you plug into an amp direct and you can't use any pedals. We get it. But you might want to throw a delay in there and it's better in the loop.
Yeah.
Again,
Oh,
it's
but Eddie put it in the face.
what?
The delay. I'm just thinking, ain't talking about love.
Was that in the face, or is that in the console? I mean, I know that's what he does for live, but how do they record it? Do they record just I don't know.
According to Pete Thorne, it was in the face.
It could be because there's something to it to overdriving the delay.
Yeah, right. No,
but
I'm just poking fun at the situation.
Oh no, but a lot of guys.
I totally agree. You need an effects loop. An effects loop is the best.
Yeah, a lot of guys talk about guitar players. They're like, "This is what they used in the studio," and it's like,
who cares?
Yeah, but a lot of times the effects are added after and the recording dry. So
I do that a lot of times whenever I make my professional recordings.
Yes.
And by professional, I mean amateur.
I mean, I like the fact. I happen to be like, if you know what it's going to sound like and you're looking for a certain sound and that sound requires you to have to print the effect, then print the effect.
Mm-hmm.
And by print the effect, I mean record it with the effect on it. It's fine.
Right.
There's some opportunity for where you might want to change the effect or you're not sure what you're going to put on it, then by all means. But I mean, I think like if you listen to bands like Cocteau Twins, there's no way you're laying down that track without having all that lush effect on it. That's the track. You got to print it like that,
Yeah.
You better know the timing of it and play to. I mean, that's a talent in itself, and people don't give people credit for that.
Going back to something you said earlier, you said Marshall clean is good and that it's not that different from Fender. I think where a lot of people don't understand is Marshall clean is good, but the biggest difference between like having that Fender clean sound and then everybody else's clean sound is that big wide open back cabinet. Having an open back cabinet really changes the scope of things in your room and the way it sounds in your room. Everything blooms differently.
Sure.
And you get that big swirly sound all around your room. And when you got a closed back cabinet with greenbacks or vintage 30s or something, it just doesn't sound like that.
Right. Wait, you know when I realized that the Fender clean was good was when I was managing Alvas and I was playing with some Mesa not the dual rectifier, but I was messing around with some Mesa cleans, the Lone Star, and there was another, and I didn't like anything. I was hating I was like, and then I played the Bogner and the Bogner clean, and I'm like, I like that clean. Right. And then I realized it's based on a Marshall clean, and I went to the Marshalls, and I'm like, oh, that is a good clean. It's a great clean. Especially if you use like an open back combo, you can hear how good the cleans can be.
Right.
And you can get a nice glassy clean, and it's you put a compressor in front of it, you get the same type of stuff you get from Fender. I mean, it's basically a Fender circuit. I mean, it's a basement circuit on most of the original, like the Plexi and the 87 and the 59 are all basement circuits, which is not really known for the best clean that Fender has, but it's damn good.
Yeah. It also depends. Yeah, it depends on what kind of clean you like. Like as I've gotten older, I've less and less appreciated like the super sparkling, like paper white clean. I like my clean to be edge of breakup where I can kind of control with my volume knob on my guitar, whether it's going to be clean or whether it's going to have a little bit of chunk to it. Not chunk, but you know what I mean. Just breaking up just a little.
There's so many different types of clean. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for that glassy, where edge of breakup is kind of nice, that's a real nice clean. But also the clean that the Roland Jazz Chorus has is a clean you can't get with anything else, and it's a beautiful clean. And there's so many different things that people usually like when modeling amps first came out and people were checking them out, and they would go to like the Fender Clean Sounds or the Vox Cleans, and they're like, this is still dirty, it's not as clean. And then they don't realize that those cleans are really not clean. You know what I mean? They're not like, it's not like a Jazz Chorus or like any transistor solid state amp. It has some bite to it. I love that Fender. Like, that's why I love the 5E3 circuit, because you can play it clean or you can put it like a humbucker guitar into it and get some real quack out of it. Like, you know, and same with I'm still debating on, because if I want to get like I'd love to get a boutique made hand wired amp. And I've been going back and forth. Do I want a 5E3 or do I want a Princeton with a 12? And I haven't made up my mind. I found a couple that make a Princeton with a 12 handmade that just, from the demos, I think I like that sound more than the 5E3. We'll see. But
the Princeton is an amazing sound. Yeah, I think the fact that they stock it from the factory with a 10 is not great, which is like why you're looking for a 12. But compared to a deluxe reverb, which is the most, probably the most popular, like Nashville guitar amp, for example, I like the Princeton a lot better myself.
Oh,
the Princeton sounds way better.
No comparison. The Princeton is a far superior amp than the deluxe reverb. The deluxe reverb is a darker sounding amp, in my opinion. Although some people will say it's too bright, but I went and played someone's amp here. They had a deluxe reverb, and I played it, and I said, "What's wrong with your amp?" The guy was like, "Oh no, we had it modded. We did this, we did." I said, "Whatever mods you got, you destroyed the amp. That amp is a great amp, and that one there sounds terrible." It was so dark sounding. I was cranking the treble and turning, and I couldn't get rid of this like nasally sound. They used some speaker like focus. I don't know what the hell they had in this thing, but it was terrible.
Yeah, like the beam blocker, like a Weber beam blocker or something.
That's exactly what was in it.
Okay, yeah.
And something else, and something to the circuit where somebody modded the circuit. And I'm like, they fucked it up. They fucked it up. It doesn't sound good. And it's like, that's why it's like, I'd much rather go buy a boutique brand where a guy has his spin on a Princeton that might be a little different, but then going and modding an amp that it just doesn't.
Yeah. But I think the Fender Blackface Princeton with a 12, and Sweetwater ran an exclusive one of those. I think they had a special edition one.
They had a tweed one.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for it. It's probably $1,000. Yeah. $899 or $1,000.
It was $999.
As opposed to doing like a $1,500 version from somebody else. Yeah, at least it's gonna sound great right out of the box.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I've seen some videos where they've demoed different Princetons against each other from boutique, and Fender's usually sounds pretty fantastic.
Right. Yeah, it's a good sounding amp. I had one for a while, a long time ago. Probably 2013, maybe. I had one for a little while. And as usual, I get rid of it and do something else.
I think the 12-inch speaker is the better guitar speaker.
I like 10s and like a super reverb. I really like the super reverb. Cool sounding amp. But
well, there's how many 10s are in there?
4 of them.
Right.
It's a lot of area pushing.
Right. It's the same as the concert, isn't it? Or is the concert a 12?
I think the concert's 4 10s, isn't it? I don't know. Well, the thing that I think is interesting about the super reverb, from what I've heard from everybody, and I haven't looked myself, but assuming that everybody else I talk to is correct, it's got the same transformer set that the twin reverb has.
Okay.
So it's got these big beefy transformers. Should have a lot of headroom, a good low end response, and everything else. But it's rated at half the wattage of a twin, because a twin's an 80-watt amplifier, 75 watt or whatever it is.
85.
85. There you go. And the super is half that. So
Right.
I don't know, but there's something about that amp that just sounds really good.
Oh, it's a great amp.
It's also very heavy.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a great
Ooh.
amp. It's a studio amp.
Does it weigh more or less than the recto verb?
Ooh. Folks, play the music.
We got to look it up. Oh, right.
My guess is going to be that it weighs more. I'm going to say the weight is going to be 95 pounds.
Oh, you're on drugs.
You think it's less or more?
Less.
No way.
Yeah. Yep. Less for sure. 65 pounds. Looking at it right now. All the weights and dimensions. 65.
Really? It's lighter?
Yeah.
1x12.
Yeah.
From Mesa.
Yeah.
Mesa, what is your malfunction?
I don't know, man. I don't know how that thing weighs so much. The super reverb would have been like a pine cabinet, which is cheap wood and it's super lightweight. So the cabinet probably weighs less. The transformers are big on this, so that shouldn't be the factor. I don't really know what it is.
Same. I mean, the amp portion, the actual head, the chassis, probably doesn't weigh much. I mean, maybe 10, 15 pounds for both. So they're using, like, what do they go to the petrified forest at Mesa to build their cabinets?
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. Look, speaking of ridiculous, my girlfriend's daughter gave me that for Easter. It's a little lamb, so I put it there so we can see it.
Oh, is that a lamb? I can't tell from this distance.
It's a lamb, but it's got these little dangly legs. It's hysterical. I thought it'd be perfect for this room.
There you go.
All right, I gotta get rolling because I gotta get the hell to with my lesson. By the way, everyone, listen to Kansas. I can't recommend this enough. Kansas is phenomenal. You got to check them out. Check out songs like "Born
Can I
on
Tell You?"
Steel. Yes. Did you listen to Kansas?
Yeah, I did. It was good.
It's fantastic.
It's very good. Can I Tell You? Can I tell you something? Is it Can I Tell You Something?
Yeah. Well, the song's called "Can I Tell You," but I think it's "Can I Tell You Something?" Dun, 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 dun. The greatest thing is when they're talking about their album cover. And the guy's like, the picture says it all. It's John, whatever the guy's name was, some Kansas guy, some guy famous in Kansas, holding a Bible and a rifle. He's like,
that's really funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the album cover. He says it says it all. It's like some picture in the Kansas State House or something. Oh. He's on the cover like almost every album. He's like on the Greatest Hits album cover. He's on like all their big album covers.
Who's on your shirt? You got somebody on your shirt.
That is one Raymond Burr. Perry Mason.
All righty.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't you fly out of here to your lesson?
And then we have some guests coming on some shows coming up soon. But we'll surprise you with those.
Ooh.
Surprise. You ever see the movie UHF?
Of course. It's one of the greatest.
There's a noise in the supplies closet. So the guy goes, supplies. It's the great.
So bad. I love that movie.
I gotta fly. All right, very good, everybody.
See you guys.
You're listening to Guitar Talk with Dave and John.